with that pom pom.
Yeah, that makes it better, no? Come, Guru. आ रहा है? अच्छा, 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 cool. माया तेरा आना व्यर्थ नहीं हुआ. व्यर्थ. You know the meaning of व्यर्थ? Who's good with Hindi? आ गया? It just makes sure that you, yeah, that you don't. Are you comfortable?
Yeah, yeah.
There is no third one.
No, there's no third.
Okay, really.
We will swap and we will. So I'll use it for the first few minutes.
मैं भी खड़ी हो जाऊँ
Sometime when I.
मैं भी खड़ी हो जाऊँ
So I know Monica must be finding it very weird.
I know
Because yeah,
it's
because
so formal in your office.
I know, yes. So Monica is one of, I mean, we are extremely lucky to have this huge group of people whom we think as friends of retail, right? And Monica is certainly one of them. Another is Sanjay there. Sanjay, thank you for being here. Yes. And these are people we go to if we are stuck in some kind of a problem. So we say, Monica, what to do? And Sanjay, what to do? You know, that kind of thing. So, right, a lot of people ask me that why do we organize Tales at Retail? Is that a question right now? Some people would have heard already. Yeah. So we started this. This is our we call it sixth episode, but it's actually our seventh time that we all are meeting here like this, and we do this purely. That's how we started. We do it only for ourselves, and in fact, we had the good fortune of having Sanjay come and speak to us in the first episode, where he told us how we just moved into this office. How do we channelize the positive energy that this place has? Right? I think we all agree that this place has positive energy, right? So we had some really interesting conversation, which was completely in house. He came and spoke with us as a team, and this essentially still continues to be. We choose conversations. We like to talk to people across industries where we feel that their energy will feed into us the kind of work that we do as designers, right? There's just so much more to learn and expose ourselves to. And we are fortunate to have experts known to us who can bring their knowledge to the table, share with us, and really we look forward to making our work better through all the knowledge that we get from all of you. Yeah. So in an episode or two, we said, why not? You know, we started sending these posts to some people that we know. And he said, see, and surprisingly, the people who've always come, like Shalaka. Shalaka has come so often, and I'm hoping that that means that you're enjoying this, Shalaka. So I'll wrap that bit and I will welcome Monica.
Thank you.
Yes, most of us know Monica, but there are a lot of new faces here who don't know Monica. So Monica is a numbers woman, okay? She's a chartered accountant and all that. And I know somebody who's a chartered accountant who told me, if you write the chartered accountancy exam, your probability of passing is about 4%. So Monica is a 4% amongst us. Then she said, why torture only finance people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, she crossed over and started torturing the technology people. So
Yeah.
Monica here has worked with Nokia and Nokia Siemens eventually, and she's worked with an accountancy firm as well in the beginning. Yes, I really am. I have no idea of those
That's
things,
okay.
but yes,
I've also forgotten.
you've also forgotten. So, but I have always known Monica from the time that she's been an entrepreneur, and her company Presto does some amazing work. And I'm hoping that in the course of this conversation, Monica will share with us, you know, the kind of very interesting projects that they facilitate at Presto. And she's a tech founder, although she doesn't come from a tech background, and I really see that to be her strength because I've seen her rationalize a lot of problems the way somebody who understands both technology and business as a way of thinking. Only those people bring a special mix to resolving the problems like that. So I'm handing over the
Thank
mic,
you.
so to say, to Monica, and we will listen to her, and later we will trouble her with some questions. Okay. So Monica,
Please.
over to you. Yes.
Thank you so much, Juhi, first of all, for inviting a non-tech person to a design studio to talk about tech. I think that itself is a very interesting mix. Something about Juhi. So we have been, I have known Juhi for a long time, and I think she is far better veteran than I am in any of the things. So she has been doing some amazing work as well. Let me. Do we want to do a quick round of introductions here, just to get
We
to
can
know
wrap up with
with
intros, but if you want to do like a dipstick, how many people are from design or something?
yeah, that would be good. I mean, what is it that you would want to hear from the session today? So I can a little bit veer towards that side. Any thoughts? Any comments? Please feel
Should we
free.
just do a founder thingy? I think there are a fair number of founders also here. Founders? See, one, two.
I took over. I didn't.
You still counted.
Sanjay there. Yes. Yes. And design people. There's one future founder sitting there, I can see. Design, yeah, there are lots of us
Yeah.
from design
Cool.
background.
So let me just start by introducing myself. Juhi has done a great job at it, but just to give a quick recap. So as she said, I am a chartered accountant. That seemed like donkey years ago. Um, I worked for a chartered accountancy firm in Delhi, and they after that somehow we moved to Finland, and I did my MBA from Helsinki School of Economics, and then I ran my. I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I started my consulting company in Finland because projects came by, and because of the visa status I couldn't accept payments. So then a lawyer recommended, why don't you start a company? And that's how the first company started. uh, Through that company I did a lot of work with cross border trade between India and Finland. That was one part of it, and the other part was working with Nokia and other MNCs like BBC or Metso to work on their joint projects, and then do the initial business planning, business development, and then present it to the boards for approvals. After that, I was also working. So as part of the cross India Finland thing, I was instrumental in establishing Haldiram in the mass market retail chain in Finland. And then I worked for Nokia and Nokia Siemens Networks, both as M&A in the global strategy and M&A teams, so both in Finland and in India. So that's kind of the one part of the journey. For the last 10, 11 years now, we have been running Presto. Presto is a technology e-commerce platform that started with a very humble ambition. So what we noticed, and this is again 2013-14 time frame when Flipkart and Amazons were coming up in India. And what we noticed was people who wanted to do a static website, right? And they are businessmen, right? They don't know what content needs to go in. They have to figure out what they need to put up, what kind of layout, color schemes, fonts, all that needs to go in. And even if they find somebody to do that for them, in 2 months' time, things go stale because you move a business, you add a contact, change your contact number, opening hours, closing hours. For those simple things, also people were struggling, to catch hold of people who would do the tech and update things. So we got thinking that if this is the case with the static interfaces, think about e-commerce and dynamic interfaces where a lot of things have to move on the go. And that's how we started Presto with a very humble ambition. Shopify wasn't a common name at that point of time. Nobody knew what Shopify was. And since India had kind of bypassed the desktop and was more on the mobile, so we thought that the interfaces need to be mobile first e-commerce platform. So that's how we started. Our first customer was Mast Kalandar. I think a lot of Bangalore people who are of the older generation would know. A common friend introduced us, and we said that, okay, this is what we have in mind. They had some 30, 35 outlets at that point of time. So they said, yeah, why not? So we started with that was the first line of code that was written, and the whole intent was that you put up the catalog on the front end, and you give the operational and marketing controls to the business. So essentially, they can change the pricing, they can change the descriptions and stuff like that, which is very common in today's world. And that's how we started. But that's not where we got the first validation that we are moving in the right direction. Because what happened was that they put up that entire catalog, and which meant that every time consumer opened the app, they would see those 200, 300 items. And there was a decision fatigue at the time when you want to order food. And there was no novelty in terms of, you're seeing the same menu day in, day out. So the first breakthrough came with Fresh Menu. So Fresh Menu was one of our customers, and they wanted to experiment with this small format menu at that point of time. And with a 5 million funding, they were still struggling to make things happen. And we spoke to them, and we signed up the next day. And within 15 days, their app was out. So while another thing that I'll probably touch upon, so Presto Apps is our domain name, and people always think that we are an app making company, which we are. Yes and no. We do make apps, but that's a very small component of the total offering that we do. And that's how then they scaled up to thousands of orders in a day, and they went on to do the funding that they did. So similar story happened with Licious. That is when we got the real validation that yes, this is something that the businesses today do need. The market got disrupted with the onset of Swiggy and Zomato. Businesses started moving towards the aggregator model. Consumers didn't want to pay for the delivery fees, right? So everything was being subsidized by the VCs, which worked out quite well. So we started also thinking that mobile space is a very limited real estate, right? So how many apps are people going to download eventually? And that the world probably is going to move towards the aggregators. That's when we started looking at a platform that can serve the aggregators per se. And we started working, because of the Nokia background, we started working with a telecom operator in Maldives, which meant that their self-care app became a de facto Amazon in the Maldives market, which meant that they could run a marketplace where they could onboard different sellers. They could be sellers of furniture, clothes, water, groceries, whatever. And those merchants would supply directly to the consumers, but it essentially meant that they became the Amazon in that market. And when I say we have a platform, a lot of people look back and ask me, okay, so what? So what do you do, right? So in simple words, we provide the websites, the apps. That's kind of the tip of the iceberg that people see. But the majority of the iceberg resides under, which is the backend admin panel. So, as a marketplace operator, you need to know who are the sellers on your system. Those sellers need to have their own admin panels to onboard the catalog or to put up their catalog when the orders come in to do the order processing. So, when we talk about platform, we talk about all these interfaces that are given to all the stakeholders in the ecosystem, whether it's a delivery boy, so they need to have the delivery apps, the payment gateways, analytics, the settlements that happen between the sellers and the marketplace operators. So there's a lot of things, lot of moving parts that go behind the scenes. The app and the websites is just one interface of that. So that was one part of our journey. So we started with the B2C kind of a model, and then went on to become provide technology for B2C marketplaces. Simultaneously, we were working with a company called YLG. YLG is again a salon brand quite known in Bangalore. And a similar kind of a journey or a revolution with them. So we started with putting up their services that their salons offer on the front end, and let the customers book the appointments. However, what they realized was, again, that wasn't a huge success. So then they were, even before COVID times, they said we want to offer home services, home beauty services. And with them, that is when we started. You want to? No. That is when we started building the home services on-demand home services model with YLG, which is how it works for Urban Company or Urban Clap, as it used to be called earlier. And again, this is how your Ola or Uber works. So there is a consumer request, and it is mapped to the most suitable operator in real time. Um, Simply said, but there's again a lot of things that need to work behind the scenes. So that was the other product line that then we built over the years. The third evolution in our journey came with the B2B commerce. So businesses started asking us that we don't sell directly to consumers, but we sell to other businesses, right? So it could be a farm produce aggregator selling to commercial kitchens, or it could be a pharma startup selling from distributors to the pharmacies, right? So that is the third part where we kind of the same platform evolved to work with the B2B companies. So in that space, we work with Tata Consumer Products and a lot of other companies. So those are three large blocks of kind of what we do. Uh, the benefits to businesses is largely that if you were to build this tech, all the moving pieces from the front end and back end perspective, uh, by yourself or through your own teams, it's minimum 6 to 10 people working for 1 to 2 years. It's not rocket science. It's not that it cannot be done, but then during that course, you're still in a MVP phase and you're still making the same mistakes as others would have done. With the platform, you get from 0 to 80 in a very short span of time. After that, every business will evolve, and that is how the businesses progress. So typically, when people take a platform approach, we are looking at a 8 to 10 times reduction or benefits in terms of cost to market as well as time to market. So this is just to give a little overview of what we do, because I think most of the conversation or the rest of the focus would be from the lens that we have seen. I think Juhi put up a very interesting topic, whether tech can transform businesses, whether it is a hype or it is a magic wand. I don't know. I think we can collectively decide, what is it. But I can just talk about some of the examples. Let's start with Fresh Menu. So Fresh Menu had some 60, 70 kitchens everywhere. Ultimately, they were preparing and selling food, right? So if you like their food, you would order again. If you don't like, you would not order again. To begin with, they did not had huge volumes of orders, which means that they could direct the orders to the right kitchens. So if I'm ordering from Indranagar, the Indranagar kitchen should be serving the order because that's the most optimized delivery and so on and so forth. But as their orders scale, you need an automatic routing mechanism to be able to detect that the order is coming from X and needs to be going to the nearest kitchen. A very, very simple example. That is where technology starts to help, right? But one again needs to be very prudent around it. So a lot of small businesses, eating joints, they would say, at what point of time do we start hiring a delivery boy for ourselves? So if you're having 20, 25 deliveries a day, you would start hiring a delivery boy. When you double it, you hire the second one, right? So there is a scale, a level at which you should introduce technology, right? So if something can be done manually, if you're getting 2 or 3 orders a day, you don't require the automation, because automation always comes at a cost. Let's take the second example. So YLG is providing home services, home beauty services. So there is a beautician who would come to your home and give you your services. There's a similar business that Quicker used to run, and they did not had this allocation algorithm running behind. The similar size of business that YLG ran and Quicker ran, Quicker was running with a 40 people operational team and YLG was running with a 3 people operational team. Does it make it a magic wand? Probably yes, right? So there are businesses that will benefit from technology, but again at a certain scale. YLG, when they started, they had about 10 operators, which means that any consumer request, they can easily look at who is free on particular day and can do it. Between 10 to 40, they started seeing the friction that, the errors have gone up, and how things have to pan out. They at some point of time, I think, scaled up to 400 operators in 4 different cities, right? That is where you see the magic of tech, where the operations are running seamlessly without intervention, and things are going and running the way things should be. A lot of people talk about that, okay, you have a on demand services platform, but so what? Ola, Uber also has it, and Urban Company has it, and a lot of other businesses are doing it. I think the difference is that all these successful startups who are doing good that we see today have done it for themselves. You know, when you build something for just one thing, and I think you guys know it more than anybody else. If you are just doing one Starbucks outlet, that is a very different ballpark. When you have to replicate that same model to 100, it becomes a very different mindset and a ballpark. That is one thing. The second is technology can democratize businesses. I'll give you another example. So, in Jains, we have a religious place, like a Teeth Sthan kind of a thing, which is called Shikharji. It's in Jharkhand, I think, if I'm not wrong. And it's a 14-kilometer trek that you do up and down the mountain. Pretty crazy one. Uh, and lot of Jains, and Jains are businessmen by profession. A lot of them comes with a fluent sect, so to say. And if I went there for the first time couple of years back, and I looked at the village, it is in shambles. The poverty is just so acute. It's painful to see. And you start the trek at 3 a.m. in the morning, and when you go 3 a.m. and you return something like 5 6 p.m. That day, when you go, there are a lot of these doliwalas. So these people who either take the elderly on the chair and stuff like that. And when you go for to start that trek, there is a mob that surrounds you to sell their services to you, and cost like 4,000, 6,000, 12,000 for those dolis. That is where the technology can make a differentiation, right? So if there is a local entrepreneur there who is willing to adopt that technology and organize those service people, that is a real differentiator. When these people come back, they need a massage. The ecosystem, you need doctors, the ecosystem that can then revolve around, that is where technology can really make a differentiator. So of course we sit in Bangalore and we talk about ordering cabs, but services unfortunately cannot be exported. And I think Sanjay knows it firsthand as well, right? So that is where the differentiation can happen. And I think that is where technology can really become a mod. I'll give another example. So we have another customer. They're a very high end consulting psychologists. So they do professional mental health space. They run a very small business, a consulting business, right? They don't require, and there is a privacy issues and a lot of those things that come up in their businesses. Now, if they were to come and say, what is it that we can do in tech, right? They don't need to, they don't need the tech to assign the consultant to the right. They have some 12, 15 consultants. It's not like they're getting hundreds of consultation requests every year. So what they need is, if somebody wants to contact them, they have a form on the website that they fill up, and that's coming to their email. So I think every business needs to think a little bit where they are at a certain point of time. And I think that is more.
I guess that's where we are also
Yeah.
today, and that's why some of these questions. I thought that you would make a great speaker for us to get our minds going. So when you meet a customer for the first time, and I'm sure you meet a lot of new customers for the first time,
Yeah.
right? Just the way we do. Do you see like a differentiation in the mindset? Everybody starts small,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And everybody starts small because I mean we do the same thing, right?
Yep.
Where they talk 200 stores, but you sort of look at them and say, are you going to pull off those 200 stores, right? So what is it that you see? Do you see that there is a DNA of scalability that you can discern? And because it's it's a seed, right? And
Yes.
you have to imagine, you as a service provider, that is this person being overtaken by the trend, like you said, that everybody's
Yes.
talking technology, or is that so do you feel, because a lot of us feel that way, that we are actually business consultants before we are
Yes,
designers? And I'm sure
absolutely.
you might feel that you're a
Yes.
technology, before you're a technology consultant, you are actually a business consultant.
Yes.
So what is it that you see? So I will make that question very specific. What makes a founder capable of scaling a business? Do you have a take on that?
I don't think we have the magic or the crystal ball. But yes, there are certain things that we do discern, or try to understand that where does the founder lie. We have had cases where people have come to us and said, I want to build another Swiggy and my budget is 10,000 rupees a month, right? So those are very clear cut cases. Boss, your ambition and your budgets are not matching. So I think a lot of time businesses say, I want to be the Swiggy, I want to be the Flipkart. But what they fail to, or they would take examples of any big funded startups. And then, so that one budget part is a very good this thing. The second bigger important thing is, what is the domain? Does the founder has the necessary domain to run that business? So I'll take two examples here. We had a company called Tankerwala. And I think they were for some time they were quite widely reported also. So they came to us, and the founders had some 20, 30 years history in the STP water business. They used to set up plants. So they were well versed with the water industry. And they said, we want to organize the water tanker market and put up water tankers on demand. We were also very excited. They have the pedigree, and it's looks like the right problem to solve. And I think theirs was one of the very well thought UI UX perspective, that the drivers of the tankers, and they should be able to understand what the request is coming and stuff like that. How long does it take to fill up the water tanker and then deliver and then return? All those parameters were discussed and taken as inputs, and the apps were live. Guess what? They did not manage to recruit more than two tankers. And the reason wasn't the technology.
Of course.
The reason was the Water Tanker Association, the mafia, did not let them do it. They even bought tankers to get entry into that association. They just didn't let them operate. In the similar lines, another person came and said, we want to put up construction equipment up. And she again had a family business, and they were providing those equipments on rent. I said, why do you need the tech at this point of time? Right? This is not something that is going to exponentially scale. I said, first go figure out, what is it, what are the parameters that you want to price your services, and a lot of other things, which will again come from your real customers. You have a business, you first figure that out. Otherwise, you can build a tech and then you will keep on tweaking it, because you don't know what is the market looking for. So I think there are chefs on demand again. And in these kind of businesses or in marketplaces, there's a supply and demand that you have to constantly play with. And then it seems like a chicken and egg, but supply has to be sorted before anything else. So if you're a marketplace operator, you need to have enough sellers. If you are a services provider, you need to have enough services people to service it. So to garner that, you do require a basic tech to begin with, but that realism has to be there. So we have seen the entire spectrum. So we have seen the people who think that you make my website and my app, and then I'm set for life. It never happens. It's like opening a shop and
Expecting us that we'll design a great looking store and it's going to do wonderfully well.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And then there is other extreme, which are traditionally physical businesses who have been running business thousands of crores of turnover, and they have been doing it in the totally non-tech way. And I have been to customers who still work on those big ledgers and books that we used to audit some 30 years back, right? And they are kind of scared that with technology there will be a lot of transparency, and we don't want to open up our books. Every all the money will come into the bank, so I can't do hokey pokey around it. So there are a lot of different reasons, and this is the people who have successfully been able to scale. Coming back to your question, Juhi, are people who know that there are the physical aspects and the physical manifestation that the business has to be aware of, and that the technology also comes with certain limitations. You cannot have technology do everything, even if it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. And that, I think, is the critical bit that businesses today need to understand. As you say in design, as you were saying, that there has to be an intent. What is the intent that you have today? Right? Somebody who just wants to, please.
Can you ask complementary questions in line with what?
Absolutely, absolutely, please.
My voice is
We are
loud enough.
recording. That's it.
How important is to have a unique selling personality and the business model which is one of its kind or first of its kind, because are they competitively advantageous enough for some kind of assurance in the early stages for the respective business to be successful?
I think a great question, but I am not sure if that alone is sufficient. So we can think about a business proposition, a business model, a USP, as you said, in isolation. But if it is not combined with your domain knowledge, what actually works? A very good example. So when we were doing this Tankerwala app, the founder's father was on one of the calls when we were discussing the interaction tankers. Why can't you have a button like plus 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 that is there on Amazon? A very simple ask, and a very from a intuitive perspective, he's not wrong in where he's coming from. You have to do the scheduling for each one of them, right? So it doesn't work like that. So I think that grounding of whatever your proposition is, and experimenting or thinking it through in the real life scenario, I think that is important. Without that, it becomes a good idea which might or might not fly.
So, do you think the question really is that for most of us who are outside technology, right? We have technology on our fingertips, like everybody says.
Yes.
We think that phone is technology, and do you think that that founders or people who are outside technology have a different definition
Yeah.
of technology compared to people who are actually executing the technology?
I think so. I think there is some amount of disconnect for sure, because so people come and says, can this be done? Yes, of course it can be done. It's not like you cannot code XYZ or you cannot make something happen. It is possible. The only question is, at what cost does it come? And by cost, I don't just mean the monetary cost. How much time does it take to understand that? And is there a simpler, more intuitive way to solve that? Right? And that is the fundamental question that business people have to constantly ask. that automation or technology always comes at a cost. And it can be cost in terms of time, effort, resources, money, whatever. But you cannot change people behavior. I think that's the hardest bit to do. I think what Ola and Ubers and Swiggy's have done is fundamentally changed the Blinkits today. They have changed the people behavior, and that is why so much amount of funding is going into it, because it is helping you shape the way consumers behave. A lot of time, and as you said, if those are groundbreaking ideas like, touch phone. Before touch phone, we were all working with the QWERTY keyboards, right? Sometimes as consumers we also don't know what is it that we want, so you have to bring it out, and then you have to educate and uh, do that. But in most of the cases, it's usually the hardest part to do is to change the consumer behavior. And that is what you have to ask as businesses. Mera customer hai, where is it going to do? How is he or she going to behave? Ultimately, it's people at the end of the day, right? Whether you're doing a B2B buying or a B2C buying or coming for consulting projects. And I think that is the fundamental thing, that as a business, do I need to advertise more? Do I need to capture what kind of people are coming? Then just focus on that part.
Sure. So there is something that we go through, right, as designers. When you look at a TV advertisement of a paint thing, it is, it's one frame after the other, where there is the picture of a room, and you can make it cream colored, and then you can make it blue colored, and
Correct.
Mira wala pink and all that. And this is not today. It's 10 years ago or 15 years ago. People would ask, but how difficult can it be to render a new view? Right? It happens to all of us, right? And we have to tell them that if you have given me a feedback today, we're going to need about 4 working days to incorporate that feedback in methods that you can understand. But there is that
Yeah.
mismatch where the back end work, because of the way we common people perceive technology, we don't understand what it takes to make technology do that work, right? There would be like number of people who would go and make that change in the model, and there's another person who's a visualizer who then changes it. But for the longest time, it's only now that we have people like Mahesh here who have seen it, and probably somebody like us has educated them and said, please come and sit in our office and see what it takes to change that to Miravala pink,
Yeah.
that there is an
Yeah.
amount of work that happens. So I think that there is that whole understanding mismatch, which even we designers go through, how what it takes to design.
Yeah, yeah,
People think that you
absolutely.
will just sketch and it will happen, right?
हाँ, so
What does the
people
big
people
deal?
think आजकल तो technology आज तो AI कर देगा, right? You don't even have to write the code. AI to us is, yes, there are tools, and that it has made coding a lot more simpler. But it is like, I know English, but it doesn't mean I can write good essays.
I really want to add my experience to what you just said. I run a brand where I make reusable wall stickers. So when I just started 6 months ago, I had like a few friends suggesting that in India right now there are no apps where architects or like even end users can just check for wallpapers and like how you've seen all these beauty apps where
Yeah.
you can look at a lipstick on your face. Why don't we have something similar where you can just show the camera to your wall and then it can keep changing the wallpaper. And this was, I mean, it was a great idea when we just started brainstorming. But then I realized that this is not going to work for a longer than, like how you said, because when I design a reusable wall sticker, I take up a craft, I put in so much effort in terms of how a particular design or print comes out. And when we discuss with the interior designers, or even when we are selling it for retail, we think of how we can actually, mix and match particular patterns to create a whole look on
Correct.
a size of a wall. So if I just give the liberty to someone who just wants to use as and how, like a lipstick, then the end user has so much freedom that a piece of a pattern which goes on a 8 feet wall can be put on a column. That liberty is dangerous. Like, as I mean, giving creative freedom is great, but when you stop is very
Is
important.
another measure
Absolutely.
of
Yeah,
where
and that's
you
why
will
we thought this is not the time because I'm a very small setup. I just run it on my own. So I thought this is not the time I do a app instead of just bringing out the idea of making people understand the craft. If I give them a technology
And I think in large cases, people like me would not be able to discern whether this is looking good or this is looking good, right? So,
and a very nice note of
Yes.
See, if you look around, the people are all smart, gorgeous, intelligent. But why we collectively as Indians are not able to think in a very luxurious way, to think about a super premium or luxury product like Louis Vuitton or Hermes or Versace, whatever, whatever. Why is it that there isn't been even one luxury fashion or handcraft worthy or whatever? No high fashion, high end product which is internationally known. Why is it that we as Indians are not able to think luxuriously?
okay, I don't know if
In
I'm the
retailing, no, in
most
general,
appropriate
any, you're talking about new
person.
businesses and ideas.
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not the right person to comment upon it, but I think
Yeah.
Juhi could talk.
No, we will circle back because we will
Sure.
take advantage of Monica being here for technology. Kitty, we had that.
Yeah. So as we are talking about website, so when we are designing a space and a client comes with a problem,
are you able to hear her?
should I
You have to be louder.
little
I don't
louder?
think they'll be
Okay.
able to hear.
So we think functionality and we think aesthetics also. So is it same for technology too?
100%.
So do you take the design first or do you take the requirement first?
Uh, we take the requirement first. We try and understand what is the consumer behavior that is being driven, who is the user of that. And for us, it's a two-sided thing. So one is the interface that the consumer, whether it's a business or a retail consumer, they will be ordering. The other is those processes have to be managed on the back end. So there is a front end of the back end also, right? Where let's say a finance guy, if a return has been initiated, then there is a finance guy who has to approve it. He has to see only certain part of that. Then there is a catalog manager who can only edit the catalog and the prices, right? There is a order manager or a warehouse manager. So we have to look at those interfaces as well. But it's absolutely true. I mean, people think आप मेरी वेबसाइट सुंदर सी बना दो. The app has to be good looking. I think that is where the vanity and this kind of plays in. E-commerce, and that is a domain that I can speak about, has to be functional, and you need it as boring as possible because people need to get used to it. And you constantly keep on changing the interface, people get confused. So there is the study that we did was that it takes 3 times for you to order something to get used to an app, right? And if you cross that, then you have a customer who is much more stickier. So absolutely, I mean, people have this, oh, this is not looking good. So just last week somebody was saying, so they sell chicken. I think we spoke about that project in MP and Chhattisgarh. And so the director there, she said, oh, the web interface, we want a very simple thing. Just put the categories, and when you hover, you should have the items appear. And like, we are looking at each other, what do we do with this kind of a feedback? How many items? So of course it's not being thought through, but that's not the expectation. That is when it becomes very hard for us to bridge that gap, because I mean, a fridge is a fridge, right? For donkey years, the basic construct of the fridge, the technology has evolved, but the basic construct hasn't changed. Maybe something revolutionized come, but when you talk about e-commerce, there's a certain way you do it. You can present it, horizontal, vertical, and all those things, but you are then essentially confusing the customer. So yes, design is a huge component, and thought through design from a user experience perspective. How long does it take to click, to think through all the permutations, combinations? If somebody is subscribing, how to put that design forward. I think that's where the uh, effort goes much.
I think there's hope. I'll tell you why. Because when we started working, all that time ago, and these were the kind of basic questions that would be thrown our way, where there would be too many inputs,
Yes.
unnecessary inputs
Yes.
from the client side,
Yes.
right? Because it's something new and shiny and they want to be engaged in it. But over the years, what we have felt is that people who true blue want to be in retail will stick to the operations part of it,
Yeah.
give you specifications of what they want to achieve,
Absolutely.
and beyond that, let you do. Like we have an ideal customer these days, no? Yeah. So that is how it goes. So I feel that because technology is still something that people don't understand, the more they understand,
Yeah.
I guess, uh, I do hope that that transition makes it easier.
Absolutely.
But yet you have a lot of people in this room who don't understand technology. So I'm going to ask you.
There's a recent brand that we were just pitching for. They had a huge base of technology plus the sustainability products that they do, and they were trying to put both together into the store. And we were just debating on how do we get that uh, design plus technology to put together in a store where people in new age can accept, like say a person of my age around like late 30s or early 30s, or say person who's in early 20s. So what's the perception that everyone looks at the store and think, is this for me or is it not for me? Similar thing goes for a website too. There's a website that I'm very familiar and I'll tell my mom you can use this website in a very easy way. However, I still have to go back and say you need to click on this, you need to click on this to get to a certain thing. So how do you see when you're designing a customer, do you look at a target group or is it for inclusive for everyone?
So absolutely, you have to look at the target group. So there is no question. But most of the times, those inputs we don't really go about doing a survey or a research around that, because that is the information that our customers bring to us. So, for example, if one of our customers is aggregating pharma produce and selling it to commercial kitchens, the interface that we design needs to be proper for that store manager or for that food joint owner or the chef to be able to quickly make the purchases, because that's a repeat purchase. He has to do it day in, day out, whether he's able to save the lists or his previous orders. There is a difference between who's paying and who's ordering, right? So those interfaces have to be thought through. That how can we make it easier?
Right,
That
so it's all about psychology, right? That's what
Yeah.
you're saying, because we
it's
talk about consumer
yeah,
psychology.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're talking about
yeah,
user
yeah,
psychology.
yeah.
And
So that user could be a consumer. That user could be a business guy, but that has to be kept in mind. There is
so
there is
then
no
we
word.
will offer you one trick.
Yes.
We tell them you are not the shopper. I'm not the shopper. You think like the shopper. Yeah. So so that's why. So
Yeah.
you think like the
Yeah.
chef, and you.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's
But
about
but just a question to you, Juhi. So in your area, it's even for this, from design perspective, you would get, everybody has, I like blue, you like red, I like horizontal, I like vertical.
Yeah, so I think
So how
very
do you
early on, very
uh,
early on we tell them it's not about you and it's not about me.
okay.
Yeah, it's not about, and I think that's where Kirti is also coming
Yeah.
from, because we both work on the concept side. So we have to tell them very early on, and in nice ways, because people don't like to hear this, that it's really not about you and it's not about me, and it's about the person that you're targeting, right? And let's imagine that person first, and you have already done a lot of research. So you walk us through, so we will establish some
Common
from some basic ground line,
Ground.
and we will operate from there. So it'll stop being about what you like or what I like. So we are not really talking about ourselves at all. That has
No, but
helped
even
us in some cases.
that is very good for the functional part of it. But
No,
for the aesthetic
as
also?
well.
Okay.
Aesthetic as well. Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a work, because everybody likes their taste. It's a bit of a work.
And everybody likes
But-
to give their inputs.
Yes, but see, in certain projects, like, for example, I'm going to pull in Sanjay there. In certain projects, which is used by a team, so we designed his office, which is used by a team, and the team lead has a lot of clarity about what
What
their
they want.
organizational culture is. Their engagement with you
Absolutely.
on those things is much more permissible, right? And it makes sense, actually it enriches your project. But where your client is never going to be the user for example. I think there we have to draw some
Draw some lines.
hard lines, and very often it works now, maybe because I look older or whatever it is. But very often, but there are times that it doesn't work. So I hear you there that sometimes it doesn't work. But I think as consultants, we need to put our foot down. So I guess that is what I'm sure you are doing as well. So yes, Diksha. Yes, we will pass this around.
So I have a scalability question, something that Juhi asked you. Like I think it was the first question. So I started working for a very small consulting company. It's a people consulting company or a strategy consulting company,
Okay.
boutique, really small, 9 people. Now for 10 years they've been doing similar kind of work. Now our target is to scale, and in this kind of consulting business, again, it's you get business through networking,
Yeah.
the kind of network you have. But network can get you only this much. Like you're talking about the first accounts you land, or the first few accounts you land, it could be through networking. Then comes the word of mouth, of course, when there is recommendation. But then how do you actually go and identify the need also? Sometimes it has to be that you approach on your own. So we are also struggling with that, because um, we solve a lot of people related or cultural related problems for organizations, but then it's so tough to identify that need, or get to the we have the right decision makers, but then identifying that need, that you need a fix here for your culture. How do you do that? In my case it's culture, but in your case, you need to develop a new app. You identify the need for the customer rather than they identifying and coming to you.
So what exactly? I mean, this is a very classic. We all are at a scale where we are all wanting to grow, and
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a magic bullet
Yeah, but
there.
some tricks, like what helps.
So I think in today's generation, again, I'm not an expert on this space, and that's why we leave the business to the business owners, because they know their domain the best. They know what works best. Build up your profile, talk to people, account based marketing. I think it's nothing out of the extraordinary
Yeah,
that I can come up. But having small tools like who is coming to your website, have, let's say, a Firebase integrated to your website, so that you know that are people even visiting, how much time are people spending on a particular section or a particular page. That tells you what information is relevant for your prospective customers. You might be able to track what geographies are they coming from. If you're running a campaign, or let's say if you put up a LinkedIn post and after that you see a spike in your web visits,
yeah.
that will give you some indication. So it will be a work in progress. You have to keep tweaking the content on the website, or how you talk about it bases those insights. And having said that, I mean, my we are still struggling with our own website, but that's, I think you tend to focus on the customers and not so much internally. But that is something I think Swati would have better inputs on, uh, her experiences with design. That's okay. But
No,
yeah, I
we're
mean,
talking about that. Usually clients come to you with their needs. How do you identify the need and go out to them, rather than being in one direction, that client is coming to you.
It's really hard to connect, but I think it needs a lot of digging in and understanding what the client really means, because sometimes they think they know what they want,
yeah.
but it takes asking a bunch of right questions, um, and even repeating their own answers to them helps, because then they start realizing that maybe, oh, that's not what I meant, this is what I meant, right? So I don't know if there's a straight science to that.
Yes.
It That's the sales part of it, right? Like really connecting with the customer and understanding it, and then of course tweaking your own process and system to be able to cater to that. So I think it's a combination of both, which is where product strategy, sales, and just customer communication comes together.
I'm actually just going to circle back to, the businesses our size.
Hmm.
While you're saying that people imagine that technology, AI, and some magic is going to
Huh.
happen. But there's the other end of the story, right? I'm talking about people like Purva. I'm talking like people like me, right? We have ideas. Maybe we're brimming with ideas, right? And then we get scared. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think? Like, we all want to go from 0 to 100, right? And ideas are certainly not short in demand, right?
Yeah.
They're short in supply. I mean, there's a lot of ideas, and a lot of us have. I'm sure. I mean, I'm a case in point, right? Every 2 years, we have like one big idea, and we think the potential has. I mean, it has a potential to scale, right? And we understand that unless we take that first plunge in and get to scaling, for which we need technology, like you said, and we do the small tinkering pieces with and then it is the time for us to scale and take that huge leap, right? What do you think stops so many businesses from doing that actually? Because I do see that um, it's like the team game. There is this friend of mine who says that a lot of teams stick to a 12 to 14 people size, and it takes a totally different kind of push to get out of that 12 to 14. Maybe this question should go to Sanjay, and get to 200 people, for example. So that's a people resource mindset game, right? Similarly, there's a business mindset game where you're able to service, say, maybe in our industry, say 10 to 12 to 15 customers at a time, and you want to now service 200, and then you want to move to 300. So, what do you think stops? Is it a mental block that stops founders like us from scalability? Because we have what you said, operational knowledge, we have ideas, we have also a good team behind us, and we can see what technology can possibly do, but we don't take that leap of faith. So have you seen cases like that, and how do you think we could overcome?
Let me just try and understand and qualify it a little bit. So when you say technology, you mean in terms of the time that it takes for you to deliver on a project, you adopting technology on that side so that you are able to, if you're able to service 15 concurrent clients, now you have the capacity within the same team to, let's say, service 30 or 100. Is that the technology you're talking about? What is the technology? I'm just trying to understand in your realm.
Yes. Um, yes, a multiple, but usually in our industry, that technology is something else. That's
Okay.
not the interface technology
Okay.
that
Exactly.
we are talking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
so that is infrastructure, right,
Yes.
at the back. So for us to step up now, I'm trying to reword my question. Is that maybe it is more about thinking big. So we think big, but how do we leverage technology to materialize that thinking big?
Let's say like data analytics.
Um,
Nico, for you, it is more about getting more customers, right?
like what you were saying, getting more customers. Yeah,
Right, getting more customers. I think that's a common problem across the board. Even we struggle with that. So it's not like we've been able to harness technology to be able to do it much better. And that is what I was mentioning to her. I think if you want, there is what you're getting customers is through referrals, word of mouth, people who have worked with you, who know who you are, and they will invariably reach out to you. I think from a technology perspective, what you can do is, again, how much of an outbound marketing are you able to do, and how much of through that outbound marketing can you bring the traffic to your website or to your pages or to wherever you want them to see your work and make you visible, right? And how much of it are you able to analyze a little bit and say, okay, is this the right target segment that we've been able to capture? Are we providing them the right information when they come to that channel? And that is a constant tweaking that you need to do. But I don't think, Juhi, there is a magic bullet where all of us want to aspire ki we are 10 today and we want to be 100 tomorrow. I don't know if there is a magic bullet like that we will, you know, adopting technology that we will go from
sure.
X to 10x. I think it's a journey we all have to undertake.
Yes, before I open it to,
I think Sanjay will
whatever
have
more
probably
questions,
better
yes,
inputs.
he would be a better one. I'm just saying, like, we were just talking to design students a few days ago.
Yeah.
We had some a batch of students in the office, and we were saying that um, people live, eat, play anyway. Design helps them do it better,
Yeah.
right? I think we can safely say that about
Yeah.
technology, that people are living and selling and playing and whatever that they are doing, but technology can help them do it better. And that whole better wala transition is I
So
think
देखो, for design field, there've been a lot of over the years we have come through a lot of ideas where, say, there should be an app, let's say, for an architect, uh, who, or in your space, there is, think about it like a marketplace where a lot of architects can come in. As a customer, I can select what kind of work I like. You can display, uh, in terms of your back end, you have your contractors listed there, you have your printers listed there. So there is a whole possibility of doing that. Now again, as a retail customer, do I have the
decision making prowess.
decision making prowess to be able to discern whether this design is looking better than that? Because I will only, design is something you cannot comment upon without having some visualization. You have to start somewhere, right? But is it a space for professionals to pull together? I mean, marketplaces like L&D Infra, Birla Pivot, all of them, they've kind of brought together this whole construction industry together. Whether there is space for designers to do that, absolutely. But again, somebody has to seed it, somebody has to anchor it and rally that whole thing behind. When you talk about doing that, and why you get scared is because you have a current running business. If you, and whatever you're thinking of doing from a tech perspective and scaling it, is going to require 200% of your time to be able to create that ecosystem. So now the trade off becomes whether I let go of what I have and position this, or I have somebody else taking care of this or this. And that is where the scare comes. I think that is where we all start getting cold feet, because it's not easy to pull off. And forget about the tech part, just garnering and pulling together that ecosystem. And I think again, I'll point to Sanjay. I mean, having run Pindrop for a while, he knows what it means to have that constant ecosystem. So it is like running any other startup or any other business. So unless and until you have the bandwidth, the motivation, the security to be able to push it, people will get cold feet. And that is why ideas come easy, implementation is where it's the hardest.
Sanjay, you have some inputs on that, technology versus scalability. Yeah, I'm going to pass the mic to you. And after Sanjay, I mean, we can just figure out who has next.
So, Monica, this is more from your business point of view. When you approach a client, when you pitch in for a business, what are the challenges that you face from the client side? I mean, I'm not talking about startups. Let's say a business which is between 10 to 25-year-old business kind of a thing. What are the challenges that you face from the client side? Now, why am I asking you this? Is because if I have to come to you as a client, I don't want to make the same mistakes. Or
I'll tell you on the face,
Yeah.
Sanjay. Don't worry about that.
and also, I want to know, when is it that through your answer, I want to understand when is it that I should look for technology advancement in my company. So I'm sure we all have a kind of a block in our minds saying that, okay, I've been doing this for 20 years, 15
Yeah.
years, and why do I need to change unless I'm pushed to change? Okay. But what is it that you feel from a technology perspective, or a person who provides technology? What is it that you feel which is holding us back, or what is it that we don't have clarity on? Or, I mean, I think as an outsider's perspective, you
Yes.
get to see a lot than we ourselves can see in our own business.
I will answer this question, Sanjay, in two parts. I think traditionally, being in Bangalore, you throw a stone and it's likely that you will hit a software developer, right? That's kind of the joke that goes around. Having said that, there is so much talent dearth in the industry. So I think the problem with businesses, which businesses like you face largely, is how to discern the donkeys and the horses when it comes to software or technology development and stuff like that. There have been enough and more cases that we have heard or we have experienced that people have been asked to do XYZ, then they get, to an extent, I think one of the very famous lingerie brand, they paid some, I think, few tons of lakhs. And when we looked at what has been delivered to them, it was a PDF in a shape of an app, right? So a lot of time, the concern that businesses have is, आप बोल रहे हो कि ये कर दोगे, but will it actually get delivered? That is the number one challenge that we have seen. They come with so much of a baggage that I tried this, it didn't work. I tried this, it didn't work. What is the assurance it will work this time? That is an industry specific problem, that a lot of businesses don't have faith that if somebody is saying something, it will get delivered. And a lot of times it's not wrongly placed either. So there are enough and more cases of that. The second thing is, I think when a business has been running on for a long time, right? 10 years, 20 years, we know the ins and outs of it. And it becomes a lifestyle business. Now, there are two ways of growing the business. Either you grow the top line or you increase the bottom line, right? Julie was talking about growing the top line, that how do we expand the top line? Well, there are ways to do it, but there is, I don't think, a magic bullet to it. When we talk about the bottom line, that is where the processes can be made efficient, and that is where businesses should and could look for digitization of certain processes that have been doing or going on manually. What happens is, a lot of time people spend doing the same things in and out, not realizing, because they're so well versed, it kind of comes automatically. Now, what you have to see is that the same person, if he is doing those 10 things in the day, has no mind space and bandwidth to think beyond, or what can be done better, or what can be done to do get more business. I think that is where the differentiation can happen, that when you release people of those mundane tasks and automate some of the things, then they have the bandwidth to think, okay, what next? But if you are constantly in that, uh, the same thing doing, people are also happy, they're getting a salary, you're working, that's fine. But if you don't give them that challenge or give them that space, ki, "Acha, now you're free, ab bolo kya karna hai," right? That is when they probably start thinking a little bit more. That, and the third part is, the there's a lot of conversation right now around B2B commerce, right? So traditionally, businesses have been buying and selling to other businesses, which is based on relationships, right? I have been selling to this person for the past 10 years. I know what the prices are. I will call the guy. I know the guy who to speak to. Acha maal hai ki nahi hai? How much discount will you give? What are the payment terms? Those things have largely been done through phone conversations, emails. Now, I'm just throwing it as an example. When the millennials are sitting on the other side and doing that, and they say, I don't want to make a phone call to everybody or anybody. I have 10 possible suppliers. Why would I make a phone call and figure out who has the inventory, what pricing, what delivery terms, what payment terms are they expecting? What is the catalog? So I might give to one business customer a particular pricing and to another one another pricing. Technology can help solve that, because the buyer, the people sitting and doing those processes has now changed, and they not necessarily want to communicate on the emails and the phones, right? And that is when you have to look at the shifting generations, that what is the interface that the other guy is looking at. So I think, especially from a B2B perspective, that becomes, there's a huge wave right now that's going on, that why don't you let the retailer order himself? Why does he has to call somebody and figure out those things? Yeah. So I don't know, Sanjay, if I
I
answered the
think
question.
I think the very good point that you made is giving some mind space so that we could look at other things other
Other
than
things.
the routine follow up on phone calls and
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I think Jayati there is laughing because these are our internal, very, very massive conversations these days. Questions, anybody? making the floor open before we will move to some facts, which is also very interesting. Yes.
So, as founders, when you throw the big idea and then idea just flattens out, what is the next step that you take?
Yeah.
As a founder, when you
So there's a big idea that has come through, and you say, okay, let's see what people respond to it, and you say it there. And then the response is somewhere in between, something that you're expecting, or something it's just completely opposite, or it just dries out. Yeah.
it fizzles out.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I think it's a good idea just to take a step back and see how you can evolve it. Because see, no business today, whether you take the Tatas or us or you, we've all evolved with the market. I mean, in our 10, 11 year, we have seen two times when we were about to die, right? And then we pulled up. And you have to shift with the market. So okay, I don't know if there is a magic bullet again, but you have to just take a step back and see and not let that thought die, because it's an evolution. So you have to tweak and see, okay, what next, or how can I tweak it and relaunch it or retest it. The best way is to, whatever your potential customers are, have a conversation. This is what you're thinking. I think one book that somebody recommended, which I found extremely good, was the Mom's Test, and how to pitch a new idea to somebody. um, so if you go and just to give you a small snippet, so if you go and tell your mom that, this is what I'm thinking, she will be supportive of you and she will say, of course, it's a great idea, right? Whereas if you try to discern, okay, if you are to check a new recipe, where will you go, and do those kind of questions, then you're likely to get the truth a little better. So the book, it's a very small book, but it does talk about how to pitch those new ideas to your potential customers. I'm still to implement that. I've read it, so I'm taking snippets of that. But I think those certainly help. The Mom's Test.
so when we have the old customers and we are still servicing them, and we would like to see them step up,
Yeah.
but there will be some retention from there, and no, we don't want to try this because it is already working for them.
Yeah.
So how do you make that shift without making it sound like, you know what, I know your business and I can make it better?
I think a good way is, and this is again something that we are also trying to implement to a certain extent. I think it's always a good idea to talk to the customers and talk about the other customers for whom you might have done something, and say, "Ki, by the way, this is something that we did for somebody else, and this is something that has worked, and see if this is something that you want to try." That gives them a little bit more confidence that they're not the guinea pigs. So just this is nothing to do with tech. Just business to business conversation.
Yeah, anyone?
Questions? Yes, Mahesh.
Hi. So we being in the right now AI world. Okay. So I just want to understand in your purview, what exactly is the positive and a negative impact of AI in the section that wherever you work.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that up, Mahesh. So I'll again give AI for a long time. We resisted using or associating with, because it was so abused that everybody was talking about AI and there was nothing AI about it. I think this is the first year where we have started using AI in the real sense of the word for our customers, and in very, very small use cases. So I think I was at one event where we were four people talking about AI adoption. And I think we are at the bottom most of that chain, because there was another in the medical industry and then another Accenture guy. They were talking about a whole different parameters of AI adoption. When we talk about AI, we are talking about very simple use cases. So one of our customers based out of Dubai, they do a lot of, because of the markets that they operate, they have to manually input a lot of invoices. And what we have given them is a simple invoice parsing tool where those fields that they want, whether it's a quantity or a price, because it's a dynamic market and prices are evolving, we extract them, and the efficiency for them, something that used to take them 20-30 minutes per invoice to input, has gone down to 2 to 3 minutes. And that is something that we like for TCPL. The whatever work we're doing, we are looking at use cases where uh, you know um the the field agents are able to click on a product, the information page, and you are able to detect whether it's a counterfeit or not a counterfeit product, it's a duplicate or not duplicate. uh, they are able to relay that information, collect that information through the app, and make product decisions. So let's say the people in the head office, they want to understand a Tata Deadly packaging in Andhra Pradesh, how is it selling, and what is the competition pricing it like. So you could play around with the grammage, you can play around with the pricing. So now through the tech, they are able to get that information real time, which used to take almost 4 to 6 months for the information to come and then make the product changes. So now that information is all residing, it's about how they want to process it and do it, and then they can say that which agents or which geographies that they want that information from. So those are some of the AI use cases that we have started adopting. The potential is huge, but I think even when you want to do a AI use case within any company, it is very important to have data digitized, and for that, garbage in, garbage out. So if there is no data that you can process, AI will require huge amounts of data to be there to be able to make any sense of it. So for businesses, they need to start digitizing the data and collecting that information. So for even a demand supply kind of a thing, you need to have at least 1 year data to be able to forecast what is your expected demand and supply. So I think that is very important. So
In your view, so what exactly that I mean, AI is really AI, or it is just see, AI again. We can say, as you said, rightly mentioned, that it is again processes a lots of data in a very
yes,
quick time,
yes,
and it gives you the results. So that is what it is,
absolutely.
right? So, but how exactly that we can say AI is just is a hype again, as coming
I
back to
don't
this
think
thing,
AI
or it
is
is just
just
again a technology.
see,
That's all.
it's a tool. It's a tool. You can misuse it, you can use it properly, you can say whatever you want to say about it, but it doesn't change the facts. Another example, so I was talking to Freshman News founder, and a very simple use case, and she said, AI mein kuch hai kya that we can use? I said, what is it that you're looking at? So she said, when the dishes are shipped and passed on to the delivery boy, before that we click a picture. So let's say it was a whatever bowl, a Mexican bowl or whatever, and the picture is supposed to have 5 pieces of cutlets and XYZ whatever. So she said, right now we're doing a post-mortem, right? So those images are getting stored, and somebody is looking at them later on and deciding whether the chef shipped out the right product or what was the deviation. She said, but that's like we only get to know when the customer starts screaming at us.
Correct.
So can you give me a solution? And which is a very, it's not a huge use case of AI, but very feasible one, so to say. Can you compare real time, but you have only a few microseconds to be able to click the picture, give a match, is it a 85% or more match? If it is not, then that dish should be rejected. Now that is, at least I, a non-tech person, understand AI as what is
Okay.
it that it is able to enable, and what pain is it able to solve.
In a few months, we will have one AI person come, and you all can come back. And
Sure,
you can
sure.
throw all these questions.
Questions,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, so it was means as your technology development. So how exactly? Because I am hearing that. See, for me, I am not again. No, I am not a technological person, but I do have an interest towards it. But what I want to understand, AI is a real AI, because when AI came, it was so hype that it will means lose lots of jobs and all those things. So
No,
it is
no.
just like a magician kind of a stuff. But what I understood after is going through some articles and everything, that it is just about processing a huge amount of data on a one single command. That is what is all is AI about. But
Yes.
you being in that sector, you must be giving that idea. So that's what I asked, whether it is helping you really,
Oh,
or
yes,
it
it
is,
is.
because it is sometimes,
Absolutely.
as you say, it's abuse as well. But again, how exactly we are going to use it, that
Yeah, yeah,
depends
yeah.
on that.
No, even Abhishek, I mean, now that he is working, so he says that AI has sorted out coding largely,
Correct.
a
Yeah.
large extent. But again, it's like just knowing English doesn't make you write good essays, right?
Right, right.
So you have to be able to discern what is it that you want them to do and whether it's been able to do that or not. So I think I don't think any.
My take on
Yes.
that is that if you're mediocre, nobody's going to pay you
Exactly.
once the AI comes in your field. That is what. So you better be very good if you want to keep doing what you're doing despite
Yeah.
AI. So I think
The other thing is, AI is for real.
Yes.
Just you have to embrace it.
yeah.
And
Okay.
if you just every single day it's changing, be it in any field, okay, even if it's a chat prompt, and if you see from what it started to now what they have is amazing.
Yes.
So
Agree.
you will just miss the bus if you sit back and think it's not real. It is very real, and it's not going to make anybody's job go. If you just keep to what is happening, the latest thing, and then you just use it to improve whatever you do. It can be anything,
Yeah.
even if it is to do with tech,
Absolutely.
because coding can be just done with AI.
Yeah,
Exactly.
correct.
I can make an app in like 2 3 days, but then it has its challenges of a proper team sitting and doing that. But if you want something very simple, yes, but AI can do it because I work very closely with a lot of these things, because the kind of image generation that we do right now is from
Amazing.
when we started, there were like 7 fingers, there's a squint, and you see Indian woman, you just get one bindi here somewhere. But right now, it's so you really don't know whether it is. But then of course some people can pick that out and say, okay, this is an AI, but it's just gonna get better. And this is just
So,
in probably where I come from, the graphic design field, one thing. But then we sit in the office and create an entire ad.
Yeah.
No, nothing, no movie shots to be done, no hiring people, and we do it in a day. So it's how much you improve on that, it just gets better. And then, of course, the AI is picking what you're feeding it. That's very key, like we were saying just now. It's the prompts and how get the
How you use the tool.
use
How
it.
you
Yes,
use
how
the
yes,
you
yes.
tool?
use it.
Means it, how
And
you,
as
your,
you keep using it, it just studies you and what you've been asking, and
correct.
it just improvises.
Yes, yes,
I
it is.
will compare this to some of us. I don't know, the younger people may not get that. Okay. When we started working in college, we learned to make hand drawings, right? And then we quickly moved to CAD, and CAD was like literally, I picked up CAD in my fourth year, and I will ask Swati later. I don't know which year she picked up CAD in. Second year. When did you guys start using? She's just 4 years behind me, right? By the time I came to work, and I came to work for money, if you could not use AutoCAD, you did not have work to do. Offices did not want you to employ. So I'm saying that maybe AI, what you're saying is that unless you know how to use that tool to add on to
Yeah.
whatever that you're doing.
I think I would like to add to this. I was learning how to make a website of my own, say 1.5 years ago, and it took me around 15 to 20 days just to understand how the website works, and like on Shopify or Wix. Okay, it is a
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
custom. You can easily make it like a drawing. But then it still did take me 15 to 20 days just to figure out how the whole thing works. And on the same tool, yesterday I just finished making a website in 2 days. Thanks to AI. Same website, same person doing the same
Correct.
thing. But the way AI prompts you to just fill in the blanks, it's exceptional. I mean, especially like how you mentioned about creating images. I mean, every other app or every other website making channel has integrated AI so well that at every stage it helps you build better. But it doesn't build like anything on its own. You're required there, but the way you feed in information, the way you process is amazing.
Julie, were you trying to imply that the basic foundation of hand-drawn or capabilities and skills that are very, very critically important to make use of whether CAD or 2D rendering, 3D rendering, or even the AI tools. I feel strongly, even wherever I've studied, all of them have said,
Yes.
whether it's India or overseas. Was it you started off the previous sentence?
So I meant that your skill set,
You have to have
you
foundation.
have to have the skill set. But if you don't catch up with the tool, your skill set alone is not going to help you through the transition. You will have to add
That's what
further
Monica has
skills.
been saying, that
Yeah.
only the English language skills is
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It is trying to, it is helping us out to be at the par in the industry, as you mentioned, right? So, and
Yeah.
I would say that it is going to help us to upgrade ourselves and keep up to the market. Yeah, keep up to the
Companies like H&M, Vogue, they're using AI for your cataloging purposes. So now they don't need the models to shoot. So think about the expense reduction that has come in. And ultimately, you just need to see the dress, right? So I think.
So that's scary. The models are going to go out of business.
Oh well, not really.
Cool. Or fewer models will work.
Fewer models will work,
Yes.
yeah.
So, questions, anyone? Else we will call it a day and we will move on to. Yes, Sanjay. No questions, Ashita?
So I'll come back to something that you spoke earlier
Okay.
about that water tanker business. You were trying to provide some technology to a water tanker
Yes.
company. Yeah. So now they had 7 water tankers, and then it didn't work out because of the mafia, something like that. Leaving aside the mafia, what else could you have brought in as a technology advancement to a business like that?
See, we could have given them scale. So once they prove the model within a city, then they can replicate it very quickly across cities. So, as I said, I mean, we cannot do the magic of creating the business.
No, but for somebody who has only, let's say, 7 trucks, bringing in technology which is also not cheap,
yes,
how does he actually balance his costs with the revenue that he's
then they did
generating?
not need an auto allocation engine, Sanjay. If they were only operating with, let's say, a limited set of tankers, you did not really need the auto allocation, because you have limited supply. You can only take orders that are matching to that, and that is what we would have said, that manual allocation, that's like a simple website, right? You didn't really need to invest that much in the technology. I think that the scale has to match the tech spend.
So what would be the scale? Let's say 70 trucks.
Anything above 40.
Okay.
So 10 to 40, you start seeing the friction. Beyond 40, it's very difficult to manage, especially on the on-demand services side. Beyond 40, it's very difficult to manage manually. Then you start seeing the problems. And of course, you will scale up because your orders are scaling up. So it kind of goes without saying that the uh, business or requests would have increased.
Coming back to one more example that you gave,
Sure.
Fresh Menu.
Yes.
Now, when they started off, they didn't have the volumes were not high.
Yeah.
But they still moved along with technology, because I feel that they were a technology company which was also actually trying to sell food, right?
Food tech.
Yeah, food tech. Yeah.
Which I don't agree with, but yes.
So how many such how many such industries do actually survive with lower orders, but they're still investing in technology? I mean, one is, we know, Swiggy, Zomato, Ola, Uber, and things like that. But is there anything else which is coming up which is new and
Investing in technology, I think B2B space is getting very hot now, and because largely because B2C funding is starting to dry up. Um, you know, AI startups, of course, any particular use case that you can scale up with AI, those are hot. Sorry. Yeah, anything to do with AI. And then B2B is very interesting because there are already established businesses that are doing large volumes, and they are really running behind on the digitization. So if you ask me to bet from an e-commerce perspective, I would put it on B2B.
B2B?
And B2B, in our opinion, will also probably go the same way as B2C. That, again, you will start looking at aggregator models for specific niches, where whether it's construction market, architects, design, things will start to get aggregated to a certain extent. It's a winner takes all market, but there's a lot of bloodbath that will happen along the way, and some will survive and some will consolidate.
We don't want to be on the side of
No,
bloodbath.
no, you won't be.
No, so I mean, I meant exactly that. Right?
Yeah.
For each one of us who's running a business here, we definitely see that if we don't think about it first, it may be too late, right?
Yeah.
So on that sort of scary note, bloodbath.
We're all
Maybe
in
at
the
some
same
point in time we'll ask you for a roundtable or something. I mean, whoever in this crowd may be interested to talk about, how B2B businesses can enable themselves. But I think that would be way beyond the
Yes.
purview of this
Yes.
particular thing, because even Swati and I, we've been talking a fair bit now that how do you enable a B2B business, and I'm definitely bang in the middle of
Yes.
this whole thinking process. And you should see the look on and where these questions are coming. And Manasa, because we've been talking a lot
Yes.
these days, and I think we will circle back and come and pick your brains
Absolutely,
very
anytime.
soon.
Anytime.
And yes, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so we have these design studios, right? And service companies or service providing companies like Presto, where we deliver apps and websites. So the difference which I have seen is, like, in design studios, they deliver the product following so many processes. They have some process to complete or deliver the product, like research and conceptualize everything. At the same time, other service companies deliver the same thing without maybe not following these processes. But what both the companies or what they focus is the sales for the clients. That's what the clients want.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a difference. So there's a difference in this, the process, right? As I mentioned. So how do you see that gap? Anyway, the products delivered is generating sales, but at the same time, so how do you see that difference? Maybe some companies are not following the process where this research and everything. So how do you see that difference? Are you
I
following?
didn't really follow the question. So what are you trying to ask?
Yeah, so
The
in
difference
design
between-
studios, when they do the design, they do the research, they conceptualize everything, but at the same time, the other side,
Sure.
they don't, but both are able to generate sales. So how do you see that difference? Do you?
I will take this
Yeah, sure.
question.
Yeah, so I have seen this mainly in tech products, right? So I'm asking you, like, how do you implement
You go,
that
I'll
process?
add
Yeah.
it on.
I will tell you in terms of design.
Yeah.
There are all kinds of, like, sometimes we get these. I don't know if any one of you gets that 2,000 rupees layout plan for a house. Yes, 300 rupees for a 3D view. Okay. Somebody who sits on this end of the spectrum, a design team where you said that we follow all the processes. Vis-a-vis somebody who's, if they are offering something in 2,000 rupees, clearly the time that they're investing in it has to be lesser, otherwise the business model will not work out, right? So that's the thing. I feel that there are clients for both,
Yes.
right? And it is fine. That is a business model where if they find their customers, it's a business model that will work for them. When I was younger, I would say, what shit, that is not design. Okay? Now that I'm older, I don't say that. That's also design. It services that particular customer. What, say, in an agency like us, we do, the concept and the research and this and this. There are clients for this as well. Right? And anybody who thinks bigger will look for processes which are bigger because they are trying to reduce their risk. That is, I think, the answer for that. It's not because it gives somebody extra joy to pay more for design, or for that matter, pay more for technology. That is that. Nobody gets any joy in paying more for anything. Only if they see that it will generate more money for them down the line, then they will come back and pay you for that. So there are different sets of clients. So just your design enabling selling at 6,000 or at 6 lakh is selling to different people.
Yes.
That's it.
And I think the same holds for e-commerce as well. So there is a Shopify customer base, a Wix customer base, right? And which works beautifully for that scale of businesses. As businesses starts to scale and grow much bigger, they don't really fit that because their requirements become much more complicated. Then they start looking at customizations on top of the platform, right? And some of these customizations are not possible because they don't have the source code, right? That is something that we have been able to manage so far because we own the platform. We are like the Shopify for a different segment, and we are able to provide that customization. So to your answer, there is a market for that, there is a market for this, and there is a market for the SAPs of the world and the other ERPs or whatever. So I think, as Juhi said, I mean, there's a market for everybody. It depends where you are as a business. So for a lot of our customers who come to us for a B2C side, I say go do Shopify. Our price points won't work for you, and at your scale you don't even need more. This will be absolutely fine. I myself tell them to go, which is fine. But as they scale, when they start looking for more customizations, more process oriented, more optimizations, that is when things starts to look differently.
Okay.
Thank you.
Somebody's going to say thank you to you, so you wait. You have seen this. So somebody's going to say thank you. Yeah, Guru, please.
Madam, what are the biggest risks associated with relying on the technology in a business?
What is the biggest risk
Risk
relying on
associated
technology?
with technology in a business.
Oh, you should not get too focused only on the technology bit. I think that keeping an eye on the business is equally important, whether the technology is working for you also or not. So there are what we call in technology negative features. So a lot of time businesses do roll out something, a tech feature or something like that, and it backfires, and you have to roll it back, right? So technology again is not a magic bullet. It can work, it cannot work. You just need to be careful that you're not focused that on the vanity factor. My website should look good, my app should look good. You have to look beyond that and see, is it able to do, is it able to generate the business that I wanted it to generate? Is it able to fulfill the request much faster? Is it able to do all that? That I think should be the benchmark. So that is the risk in technology. So don't over invest in technology ahead of time. I think that's the biggest pitfall. So people usually fall in either of the brackets. I want everything, my product to be perfect. No business is remains in the same state of. So your business evolve, your customer requirements evolve. You have to keep pace of that with the technology. And it should not be that I'm doing everything manually. ऐसे ही मैं करता आया हूँ, ऐसे ही मैं करूँगा. That also becomes a. So you need to have a very realistic blend of both. One without the other will not work. Thank you. That's for everybody.
Hi, I'm Shivani. Thank you so much,
Thank
Monica
you,
ma'am, for joining us today and giving us a very insightful talk about technology and e-commerce. And I think it was a very nice interactive session, and all of us have had something that we're going to think about from today's session and take away. Thank you for taking the time out of your
That's
schedule and joining
fantastic.
us. And also thank you to everyone else for joining us today and making this event very memorable. I think we'd like to hand over
Yes, please.
a small gift to you.
It's Anu's day. Anu's going to do it.
तुमने पूरा ही फॉर्मल कर डाला. Yeah. Oh my God, so much. So much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I just. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody at Retail for bringing us. Raghu. I want to bring it.
Yes.
Thank you
I
so
know.
much.
Thank you, and
Yeah.
for coming.
They've
Pleasure.
also arranged a few snacks and refreshments. In 2 minutes, we'll be setting it up and we can have it.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mani. Thank you. Mani is my first boss in Bangalore.
Oh,
So when he told my colleague that he's coming, and then we heard that he's not coming, so I called him 2 3 times. I said, "You should come."
I'm glad. Thank you so much.
Money, me taking your card. New logo, I noticed.